So if we look at the pedigree here, we actually see that there's more individuals that are affected by this disorder. So this tells you that this disorder is basically autosomal dominant. A polygenetic trait, it is a trait that is controlled by several genes. So an example of this is basically skin color and height. The effects of each dominant allele are addictive. So there's a continuous variation of the phenotype, resulting in a distribution that resembles a bell-shaped curve. Now, the environment also plays a huge role in this type of phenotype. For example, nutrition influences on height. So height is an example of a polygenetic trait in humans. So what we can see is that there's a huge distribution, and the distribution resembles a bell curve shape. So skin color, so the result of pigmentation is produced by melanocytes, which are basically specialized cells that make pigmentation. There are over 100 different genes that influence skin color, and also the environment also plays an important role when it comes to skin tone. A range of phenotypes exists for each genotype. So multifactorial traits are controlled by polygenes that are subject to the environmental influences. Some examples are basically cleft lip, cleft foot, schizophrenia, diabetes, allergies, and cancer. For example, the coats in the Himalayan rabbits are darker at the ears, nose, paws, and tail. So the enzymes that make melanin is active only at low temperatures. So pleiotropy is a single mutant gene that affects two or more distinct and simply unrelated traits. An example of this is Marfan syndrome. An example of incomplete dominance is familial hypercholesterolemia. It is associated with the gene that controls the number of LDL cholesterol receptors or proteins in the parallels in the plasma membranes of cells. A person with two mutated alleles lacks the LDL cholesterol receptors, and what happens is that these individuals often die of cardiovascular disease at a very early age, for example, the age of 30. So they develop cholesterol deposits in the skin, tendons, and cornea. A person with only one mutated allele has half the normal number of receptors, and they may die while still young or after they have reached middle age, while a person with two normal alleles has the usual number of receptors, and they do not have familial hypercholesterolemia. If you have codominance, then that means that two or more alleles have the equal probability of being expressed in a heterozygote. An example of codominance is basically blood types. So A and B are basically codominant, and blood type O is recessive. When a trait is controlled by multiple alleles, the gene exists in several allelic forms. Each person only has two of the possible alleles. For example, in blood type A, B, or O, each person has only two of the three possible alleles. And for example, both blood type A and blood type B are dominant over blood type O. There are two possible genotypes for type A blood and two possible genotypes for blood type B. Since blood type A and blood type B are codominant, so if an individual gets a allele for blood type A and also the allele for blood type B, then both of them are going to be fully expressed. So this individual is going to be blood type AB. Whereas, for example, if you are blood type O, then you have the recessive alleles. So in humans, both males and females have 23 pairs of chromosomes. 22 of those pairs of chromosomes are called autosomes. And there's something very special about the 23rd pair. That's the one that determines the sex of the individual. So when it comes to the chromosomes that are found in males and females, there's a difference. So males have a copy of the X chromosome and a copy of the Y chromosome, whereas females have two copies of the X chromosome. So the Y chromosome contains genes responsible for determining male gender. Sex-linked traits are controlled by genes on the sex chromosomes. For example, an allele on the X chromosome is what we call X-linked. An allele on the Y chromosome is what we call Y-linked. So most sex-linked genes are found on the X chromosome. The X chromosome carries genes that affect both males and females, whereas If there's a gene in the Y chromosome, it's only going to affect males. All males receive the X chromosome from the mother. Now, the Y chromosome does not have the same genes as on the X chromosome, and males receive the Y chromosome from the father. Usually, the alleles associated with the sex-linked genetic disorders are recessive, and this provides a protection for females because females have two copies of the X chromosome. So, if most of the diseases are recessive, having the X chromosome provides some sort of protection. So, you must have both the recessive alleles in order to be affected with this disease. Where in the case of males, right, we only have one X chromosome. So that means if that X chromosome is mutated, we don't have a second one as a backup. So if you have an X-linked recessive disorder, one of the things you're going to see is that more males are going to be affected by this condition. And the reason for that is because we, as males, we only have one copy of the X chromosome. And if that chromosome is mutated, we don't have a second one as a backup. So X-linked recessive conditions are often passed from grandfathers to grandsons because the daughters of a male with the disorder are carriers.